Italy, I'm home. Today I will be talking about the race weekend at Monza this past weekend on F1 Fridays. First off, this wasn't a normal race weekend. It was a sprint weekend. This means that the normal qualifying session that usually occurs on Saturday will happen on Friday, which will then determine the grid placement for the sprint qualifying race on Saturday. The sprint race held on Saturday determines the grid alignment on Sunday. This gives drivers one more chance to improve their starting position before the trophy race on Sunday. Sprint races are a lot less laps than the normal race. With that out of the way, let's look at what happened on Friday. The weekend started in favor of Mercedes, with Valtteri qualifying first, Hamilton qualifying second, and Verstappen in third. The McLarens, using the Mercedes engine, also showed pace, with Lando qualifying fourth and Daniel fifth. Pierre Gasly, racing for AlphaTauri and last year's Monza race winner, qualified 6th, with both Ferraris qualifying right behind, with Sainz in 7th, Leclerc in 8th. The top 10 was rounded out by the Red Bull, Sergio Perez in 9th, and Giovinazzi of Alfa Romeo in 10th. Pause the video if you want to look into the qualifying positioning/sprint start placement. Moving into the key points from the Friday qualifying session. Mercedes locks out the front row, seemingly allowing them to take a 1-2 finish in the sprint race given their pace during qualifying. Max has no help with Sergio qualifying 9th, and the McLaren's pace might cause trouble for Max in 3rd as both McLarens qualified 4th and 5th. On to Saturday. Saturday was chaotic to say the least. At the start of the sprint race, Hamilton was immediately passed by Verstappen, Ricciardo, Norris, and Gasly, all by the first turn due to a poor reaction time and starting on hard tires. Gasly had suffered a front wing error and spun off the track, allowing Hamilton to gain a place back. The sprint race eventually ended with Bottas first, Verstappen second, Ricciardo third, Norris fourth, and Hamilton fifth. Both the Ferraris switched places with Leclerc in 6th and Sainz in 7th. Giovinazzi gained 2 places, finishing in 8th, with Sergio staying in the same, finishing 9th. And Stroll hopping into the top 10, finishing 10th. Pause if you want to read through the rest of the orders or times. On to the key points from Saturday's sprint race. First off, Valtteri did great, but Valtteri needed to replace his engine for the 4th time, resulting in Mercedes electing to take the penalty this week, starting Valtteri in last place. This means that everyone moves up a place, and the starting order of the top 6 is now Verstappen in 1st, Ricciardo in 2nd, Lando in 3rd, Hamilton in 4th, Leclerc in 5th, and Sainz in 6th. Ricciardo starting 2nd and Lando starting 3rd is McLaren's best starting position since Brazil 2012. McLaren's great starting position is important in its key battle for 3rd against Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. On to Sunday. Woo! Sunday. Let's just say Sunday was a race to remember. The race started with Ricciardo jumping past Verstappen at the start, leading the race going into turn 1. There were some tight battles, but the order remained Ricciardo in 1st, Verstappen in 2nd, Lando in 3rd, and Hamilton in 4th, when Ricciardo elected to take his first pit stop. Verstappen pitted a lap later, but an 11-second pit stop due to human and mechanical error allowed for Norris to gain a position after his pit stop. Hamilton was now in 1st, but still needed to pit. With it being his turn to get a new set of wheels, Hamilton headed into the pit, allowing Ricciardo to pass him and take back the lead. With Ricciardo passed, it was now a matter of if Hamilton would come out of the pits in front of Norris or Verstappen, or behind them both. Norris had enough speed to pass Hamilton, but Verstappen was a lot closer. Both Verstappen and Hamilton were close going into turn 1, which led to the car of Verstappen ending up on top of the car of Hamilton and ended the race for both drivers. Ricciardo and Norris kept up their amazing pace, finishing 1st and 2nd. Perez finished 3rd, but a 5-second penalty dropped him a couple spots down to 5th, which gave the 3rd podium place spot to Valtteri Bottas, who came back all the way from last. Leclerc finished 4th with Perez in 5th, and Sainz in 6th. Pause the video to view the rest of the placings and times. I will now give you the key points of the top 4 teams in the Constructors' Championship. First off, we got McLaren. Let me just say, McLaren is back, baby. With this win, Daniel Ricciardo showed us that he deserves a spot on a top team. He started the race in second, but gained first and held the lead every lap without making a mistake. He showed that he has real talent and can help McLaren battle for third. We also found out that Lando Norris is also very, very talented when he held off Hamilton, Verstappen, Perez, and Bottas at various different times throughout the race. We also found out that McLaren is providing its drivers with a car capable of competing for a championship in the future. We lastly found out that McLaren has the leadership, infrastructure, and speed to be a competitor at the top for the next coming years. Next, we got Ferrari. Classic Ferrari. In the past 3 seasons, Ferrari has had amazing drivers, but hasn't been able to give them competitive cars. Both Ferrari drivers were struggling with the car, but finishing 4th and 6th was pretty spectacular. Ferrari hopes that improvements on the car can lead to a better performance in the future. Most importantly, we saw that the drivers of Ferrari are insanely good, and it is more up to the performance of the car and less the drivers if Ferrari wants to get back to its title hopes. Lastly, the top 2 teams, I smashed them together. We got Red Bull and Mercedes. Let's get one thing out of the way that we didn't really need to learn over this past weekend. Both Red Bull and Mercedes are very fast and will continue to be fast for the years to come. Also, I know I said I'm talking about Red Bull and Mercedes, but I'm really just going to be talking about Max and Lewis and their little crash. We did learn that Valtteri and Checo are both amazing drivers and have excellent race pace, but both have struggled to compete with their respective team's #1 driver. On to Lewis and Max. Ladies and gentlemen, it happened again. In the most competitive season since 2016, the top 2 drivers crashed. Again. Tensions have been extremely high this year, as Red Bull's Max Verstappen threatens to end Lewis Hamilton's 4 consecutive drivers' title streak. In Mercedes' 7-year dominance, this is the most threatened Hamilton has been, with Verstappen taking first 7 times and Hamilton only taking first 4 times, with the title being separated by less than 10 points. Back to the crash. This crash was deemed to be the fault of Verstappen, with the driver receiving a 3-place grid penalty for the next race. I completely disagree with this penalty. I think that both drivers were at fault. Moments before the crash, it was clear that both drivers wouldn't make it around the corner with their positioning going into the turn. I think that Hamilton could have left a foot or so more room for Max to pass. I also believe that Max could have avoided the crash by bailing out of the overtake before colliding with Hamilton. In my opinion, since both drivers were at fault, I believe neither should have been penalized, and it should have been considered a racing incident. But no, instead Max was given the penalty. I truly believe that this was an undeserving penalty. If both drivers had continued, would it have been a penalty at all? What if Lewis kept driving and Max's car was the only car taken out of the race? What if the crash was between 2 bad teams and not 2 title contenders? One thing is definitely for certain. Both drivers will be driving to the extremes until the last race of the season. Alright, that's gonna do it for this week's episode of F1 Fridays. Let me know if you think both drivers will continue to race hard or if they'll crash again. Play it safe or play it risky. As always, good luck, what's happening, and Jacob Tangonen is copping.